Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Referrals Podcast. Perhaps you have heard the go from rags to riches stories of yesteryear, and along the way, there's been movies, there's been books. Today, you are going to learn how to go from wrenches to riches. How someone who took all the schooling and became a plumber ended up solving bigger poopy issues for realtors and others and truly taking the business to the next level. And I'm telling you, this is a story that you are going to want to listen to and act upon. I cannot wait to share this with you. Rhyan Finch's story is going to blow you away. But before I do that, I need to say thank you to all the listeners of Referrals Podcast, making us a top 100 podcast. I'm telling you, the fact that it's about referrals and we are in the top 100 in marketing, we're trending in UK, Singapore, United States, et cetera, is because of you, the listener. And we could not have done it without you. Thank you so much. But more importantly, what I love are the success stories I'm hearing from you about what you heard on the show and then you put into action. That's what I love. So Jenny Roberts, I've got a special shout out for you. Thank you for sharing 7L and the podcast. It has changed my view on how I want to do business. It was always a part of my way of life, but you put words and direction to it when it comes to the show and the book. I absolutely love your programs. I'm signed up for all of them, and I am grateful to be part of GenGen at, by the way, this is my insertion, joingengen.com. The work you do is so important, and it makes a huge difference. Thank you. Jenny Roberts, thank you. I hope that's incentive for all of you to join joingengen.com, joingengen.com. And the other thing that I do want to invite all of you to is the 7L Book Club, led by me. So I am going to take you week by week in 4 weeks through June, through 7L. Here's the thing. Wouldn't it be cool if like Bob Berg had a book club for the Go-Giver? Wouldn't it be cool if like Napoleon Hill would have had a book club for Think and Grow Rich? Wouldn't it be cool if the author had a book club and took you through the book and gave you the insights, the secrets, the little nuances that maybe you didn't read when you read it the first or the 9th time? That's what I'm going to do in June, is I'm going to lead the book club. I'm going to give you thoughts and secrets about this book that even my wife doesn't even know. I am looking forward to 7lbookclub.com. You can sign up on that site, find out more about it. Would love to have you involved, and I can't wait to do it. I'm very excited about the 7L Book Club, led by myself, and man, we're going to have so much fun with that. But what we need to talk about today is how do you go from wrenches to riches, right? How do you go from being a plumber to truly solving some of the most expensive and biggest problems of today in real estate, and having one of the largest virtual franchise establishments in the entire country? That's what we're going to learn about today from Rhyan Finch. And I'll tell you, this guy has a story. Rhyan is the broker, owner, and founder of First Class Real Estate and First Class Franchising. In 2005, Rhyan became a licensed real estate agent with a nationally known franchise firm in Virginia Beach and quickly exploded as he gained over 100 listings. Just so those of you that aren't in real estate know what I'm talking about here. So very quickly, he went over 100 listings. The average agent takes 3 listings a year. He did 33 times that in a very short period of time. And he found his niche in short sales, which was a huge solution at the time. In 2008, Ryan gave himself a promotion and started his own real estate team, the Rhyan Finch Real Estate Team. In 5 years, Ryan took his newfound real estate career in a crashing market to the #1 team in Hampton Roads after joining forces with his sister, Rendy. Now, in 2021, as CEO and principal broker, he has led the company to rank in the top 4% of all real estate companies in the Hampton Roads area, over 700 agents and 50 locations nationwide. His powerful leadership, knowledge, and desire to excel has proven a track record of success for exponential growth. Ryan started this company with one goal on his heart: to change lives here at First Class Real Estate. Our mission is to change lives and sell a few homes along the way. Rhyan Finch, welcome to Referrals Podcast.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. I'm a big fan of yours, so I'm glad to be on here. And I don't know, some marketing people really put some stuff together there to tell some of that. I don't even remember some of that stuff, so that's pretty cool. They found some of that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's one of those where your story is amazing. And, you know, I love the whole thought of go from riches to riches, because that's essentially what you have done. And I think the first thing you have to do is just start in the beginning. Tell us about the journey, your journey from being a plumber, and how the heck did you get into real estate in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually I went to church with a guy that had a real estate team, and he drove up in this Cadillac Escalade, and I'm like driving home, coming home dirty from work. I've got my daughter. I ended up going through a divorce, and so I was like, look, this isn't going to work out for me. You know, I'm going there working 40 hours a week, getting up at 7 in the morning. You get back at like 3. I was like dropping her off at like 6. It was still dark out. I basically had to give them like clothes to change her, and I was like, this isn't going to work for me. I got to come up with something new. Oh, this guy's pulling up a church softball team in a Cadillac Escalade. He's such a man's man. His bravado was there before the car even pulled up, you know, like
yeah.
You just picture, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, totally.
Big softball guy, the Cadillac Escalade, big sales guy. And so I was like, I want to do that. You know, how do I get out of this plumbing industry and into an industry where I'll have more time, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And so he was on your softball team too?
Yeah.
And went to church with him. Mm-hmm. And so was he successful in sales? Was he doing well in real estate?
Yeah. He's always done well. Yeah, he was a go-getter.
Okay. And so you went and got your license because you thought if you got a license you would get an Escalade, right?
Yeah. That's pretty much what it was. Yeah.
Didn't basically work that way.
No.
But so what did you? And I'm genuinely curious about this, right? So you jumped from plumbing to, and I'm guessing you kept plumbing, at least kept your plumber job for a while, or no?
No. So this was that, because like you said, that was like, I think it was more 2006, 2005-ish area. But we went through this big boom. But when I was 19, I had bought a house, and then a couple years later, I bought another house. You know, and then lucky for me, everything kind of shot up, and so I had some equity in that, which I pulled back against and used that. Went out and bought a nice car, got some suits, got a computer, and just said, all right, dropped her off. And I said, here we go. I dropped her off at 9 this time, right? And so, and I said, all right, here we go. Wish me luck. And I went into the office and had to figure it all out from scratch. They kind of guided me and coached me along. But yeah, I quit cold turkey.
Yeah, wow, that's gutsy. And I mean, it's gutsy to buy a house at 19. So I'm sensing a trend here. I see that working for you. So it's like you're cutting ties and going 110% wherever you go, right? And that, I think that's a big key to success in itself. Let me ask you this: you got it. I mean, but you're dropping plumbing and getting into real estate in one of the worst markets in history.
Yeah, it tanked right afterward.
Yeah,
I had 1 year of good, and then went.
So 2006 went okay. Mm-hmm. And then 2007, 8, 9, brutal, right? Brutal everywhere. And so who helped you? How did you learn to do short sales? I mean, you got to realize you're probably one of 5% in this country that knew how to do short sales, you know?
Yeah, well,
So
nobody knew how. I don't think
yeah,
anybody knew how. The banks didn't even know how.
that exactly.
It was necessity. I mean, at that point, so that first year I made a good amount of money. I went from like 40,000 to $100,000 a year after doing that 5-year apprenticeship, making like 40 grand. Then I jumped cold turkey, but now I'm making $8,000 a month, and so it's
Right.
it's 100 grand. So it's a jump, but you'd think I won the lottery, because I'm like, I went to the Super Bowl that year. I mean, I traveled, I bought a new car. I mean,
Yeah.
I spent money like it was crazy, like it was
Yeah.
never going to end.
Yeah.
And then it ended. And all it did was gave me the ability to get more debt, and getting more debt then turned into crashing on me. And so I actually ran into a guy that was an investor that was buying houses. And I said, hey, he was a licensed agent as well. I said, hey, can you just refer me the ones you don't buy? Because it was a short sale. And I said, and if I get it approved at a good number that makes sense for you to buy, we'll buy it. If not, I'll sell it on the open market. And so we did that. And we just kind of made a packet out of it. I think there was CDPE at that point. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
So
So they certified distressed property.
Yeah. So I did that, and got that so I could go in and talk to them. And that's when I went. I just went to listing after listing. I just call them. I'd have them like a doctor's office, come into the office, sign them up, and they didn't care. They just wanted it out of their house. And so we just listed them. Phone calls come in. We tried to get the buyer. We had a whole system, even outsourcing some of it to people to help us get them approved. And it was a process.
Well, okay, so you just dropped like 10 pearls in what you just said. So number one is you worked out a referral relationship with somebody that made a lot of sense to refer back and forth with, right? And you made it a win-win. Hey, listen, if they need to go short sell and it doesn't work out for you, I'll sell their house. If it does work out where I can get a really good deal from the bank, you can buy it. So, and you were doing like quite a bit of the legwork. All they had to do was send you the name and you did the rest. And then what I love about what I'm hearing, and this is so atypical in the real estate world, is you brought them to the office. Like, instead of you doing all those listing appointments at their houses, and you created this assembly line where you could do more business in less time, but it actually benefited the consumer more too, because you really didn't need to see the house. And they had a problem that you could solve, and you could line them up and have them come in, and you could follow your system. So you took control. Took control of the situation, right? Which is what during that time that was so critical, because the homeowners felt out of control, and they were out of control, right? They couldn't control the market. None of us can control the market, but we can control the process. So you controlled the process, and I just love how you turned that around. And did you know what you were doing at that time, or did that come about necessity? Or what made you decide to bring the sellers to the office versus going on all those listing appointments like all realtors typically do?
What was happening is I was getting that many leads and referrals that I had to make the calls. And when I made the calls, set the appointments, then I had to go there. They were spread out all over. So it would be in one city or somewhere else. And I never really told anybody this, but the reason that I pushed them to go to my office is because I had to get back to get my daughter by 5. So I had to go get her, and I couldn't afford to be somewhere else. So I ran an office like 9 to 5, like a doctor's office, because I had to be done then. And I knew where I would be at that point in time. I started with 1, the end of the day 1. And then well, if that one's going to do it, then we'll just do all of them. And plus my processing person was there. So I would just take it and pass it through. And then I'd say, bring a key, and they would bring a key. Then I'd send a field technician out to go take the pictures and put the lockbox on. So I just made that process of all of that.
So brilliant. So brilliant. I love that, because it's I love the fact that it came out of family. A necessity based on family started a system that literally turned out to bettering your life during the 9 to 6 time period as well, or 9 to 5. And it's one of those where you started, doctors don't do house calls. They don't do house calls anymore. They don't have to. Why? Because they've created the system for us to go to them and wait an hour in the lobby, which drives me absolutely bonkers. But I'll wait an hour. You know why? Because it's so hard to get with them. It's the same thing that you created with the short sales, is that you had the solution, and you had the assembly line, and you treated it like a doctor's office. They came in, they did the paperwork, you had a key, and you would help them out, and they would feel 100% better when they got done, right?
Yeah, it worked out. I mean,
you cured 6 situations.
They didn't all close though. Sometimes they had to get documents and all this other. And so a lot of times it was a benefit, because if I drove out there and did all that other stuff and then it didn't close, I wasted even more time for no money.
That's right.
So I couldn't live like that.
So what have you learned along the way of doing business the way that you're doing? Because you kind of went from the plumbing to doing the short sales to doing business. You started your own team with the Rhyan Real Estate team, and then you jumped into first class real estate and doing your own brokerage, and now you're over 700 agents, 50 offices, which is incredible. An entirely virtual situation. Like, I actually have to, what made you decide to go virtual? We'll come back to the question on life lessons, but what made you decide to go virtual with first class real estate?
It's so funny because I've watched this on this History Channel. They've got these things where you can watch like Foods That Made America. I don't know if you've seen it.
Love that one. Love that
really
show.
Good. You can watch like Carnegie and JP Morgan and all those, and almost all of them kind of got lucky in some way, state and fashion, like something disrupted in the industry or market or something that happened for that. And obviously we know what happened with us, right? So in the end of 2018, the franchise model for us opened, and we were doing pretty well. I mean, we were getting referrals of different people of opening. The model was doing well, but what really took off was the virtual side of things, because what happened is I went in and I was going to set up a corporate model virtually. So I was like, all right, great. Then we'll open up virtuals, and everyone else is shutting down. They're staying at home. And I said, well, people aren't coming to the office, then let's just go open up virtual offices. Like I was like all forward going ahead. And then I went, wait a minute, we can adjust this and make the franchise that same way. If we can run a corporate office that way, we can run the franchise. Now they don't have building costs. They don't have all these employees. Everything we set up to do it corporately, we can do a franchise. And so that was really what happened. Is I took a P&L and I was explaining it to somebody. Well, here, we don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. And you can do X, Y, and Z. And then I went, oh, forget it. Let's just turn it into the franchise model. Let's run it. So then we adjusted our whole franchise model around that. And some people have offices, some people don't. We actually have to keep a report so we can remember which office is virtual and which isn't, and what territory they're at. But yeah, that's how it happened. Is just I still remember sitting at the computer, going through a P&L on a Zoom call like this, explaining it to somebody, and I went, oh my gosh, we can do this.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, we can do this everywhere. What are we waiting on?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And what great timing, right? I mean, what was the big deal with the 5 men who made America, right? Is timing was huge too. Steel became readily available, and there was a lot of land to build on, whereas now, there's not as much land to build on. So, it makes total sense to go virtual because of all the, what do you really need an office for? And a lot of people have a home office, right? Mm-hmm. I guess on that note, do you have a way to build like a esprit de corps and keep your agents excited? Or, one of the faults that somebody might say with a virtual office besides a real estate office is you just don't get the energy, right? You don't get the opportunity to get everybody together, and there's no esprit de corps. How do you overcome that, or how do you counter that?
There's multiple things actually. So we have President's Club for our agents. So like any agent across the country can make President's Club. They can go on that. Every location has the ability to have top producer events. So then they all get together quarterly for that. Mm-hmm. We have a monthly town hall meeting. So we all get online for that side of it. And then every location, remember, because it's a franchise, this isn't the same as running a national company with different managers. These people own those companies. So they have different things where they get them together. And again, some have offices, some have just small offices, so that way they can have that kind of thing, or they may go rent a Regis space, or they may go use the library, or whatever it is they want to do to get their event thing together. And so we're really actually intentional about doing that, and they want to do that, and then they do it based on kind of what the agents want. And again, everything's free flow. There's no control. That essentially you want to come to the event, come to the event. If you don't want to, you don't have to. If you want to come in and meet together and powwow, then they can do that, or they can they cannot. So
yeah, I love it.
Out really well. Yeah,
I love it. It makes so much sense. Kind of like when you were going through the Zoom and the P&L, it's just like, why weren't we doing this earlier? You know,
I felt like an idiot, actually. I felt like an idiot for not seeing it before this. So,
well, you saw it. You're still seeing it before a lot of people are seeing it. You know, there's still a lot of brokerages out there that have a lot of overhead, and unfortunately, the agents have to pay for it. Right?
Yeah, when those, and that's interesting you say that, because that's what we're having now. A lot of people that already own brokerages are coming back because we've centralized everything here that they can run skinny and give 100% to their agent. And the agents are like, I'd rather have more money and not have an office and still have all these functions and keep all my money. And so now we had, I think, 120 agents hired on last month. This is how fast it's going at this point. It is insane. We went ahead and we have in for the rights to own the first real estate franchise. So like we're going to own that name. So
yeah, I love that.
With our company.
That. If somebody were interested in learning more about how to open a franchise for first class real estate, how would they do that?
firstclassrealestate.com. So you can go on there, you can find out about the franchise, you can find out the offices, there's maps of where the locations are. Everything's right there, drops in, emails to us, and then we've got people that'll help answer the questions, meet them up with wherever the location is. Everything's right there. I just literally built that map because I was like, how do you get this in their mind of where it is? Like, if I'm somebody, I'd be asking that same question. So the map's cool because you can literally go straight to a franchisee as an agent and join on, or you can go straight to us and do that. And then we have another thing called area rep, where people own the rights as investors to be able to help expand. And we've got 15 of those. So those people are now expanding further. So it's insane.
It's on fire.
And I love it. Fun. So much fun.
I love it. So that goes back to, all right, now we've kind of completed the timeline from 2004, 5, and 6 to 2021. So, give us lessons learned along the way as you've gone from, go from wrenches to riches. Tell us about, like, what are some lessons that you've learned along the way?
So, we didn't touch on this part of this, but after the short sale thing, we ran into an REO market, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got lucky and landed a Fannie Mae account with them. And what happened is I was doing everything. I was fine. I was actually on a trip to California, and they dumped 150 properties on me one day. I wasn't even in town. And now this is all these VPOs and all this stuff we had to do and yada, yada. And it was all right. I mean, we were okay. We were set up to do it. We managed it. We handled it. And what happened in that is it was an epiphany that I didn't have the right systems. I didn't have the right processes. I didn't have the right technology. And so having the key technology, systems, and processes for when that happens, right? So we talked about that system for listings. Now we're talking about that system for these properties coming on, but they didn't have the right system either. They had a system that didn't automate. And I don't know what you know about that, but you basically had to remember everything. But so if you get more and more properties, your brain has to remember and keep up, and people were failing. The reason those got dumped on us is because somebody couldn't manage them because the system failed. So we built a system, synced it up, connected it, made all the reporting, made the dashboard. Actually, it shut down at a certain time. So we went in and got all of those systems and processes and technology built out. And then once we realized we could do it here, we said, well, we can do it anywhere. Yeah. And so, because once you can scale in one region, you can kind of go anywhere you want. And so that lesson learned while we're talking about it back then is what set us up for today, right? And so you look, all of these pieces go kind of hand in hand as you go through. But yeah, the technology, the system, the scalability of things, they're all like words or like buzzwords almost in marketing today. But when you really stop and you reflect and sit back on what you're doing and say, how can I do this? What would happen if this happened to me? So now you start forward thinking to, if this happened, how would I handle that, right? Yeah. And instead of it being reactive, you're proactive.
Yeah, I love how you're thinking in terms of leverage. Like, what you had to learn how to leverage very quickly because you simply could not do it all. And you discovered that right off the bat, it was a system and or a technology that was going to help you solve the problem locally. And then what you discovered is through that system and technology, once you solved it for yourself, it scaled well. That's right. It's like, I mean, hey, I've got this system and this technology. Like for us, it was Excel, right? We did a lot of REOs as well in the Kansas City area. And you're exactly right. The back end for WFREO and for Fannie Mae and all that was so archaic. They didn't know what they were doing, right? I mean, their banks are not in the business to do real estate, So we did it all through Excel and that kind of thing. But you're exactly right. Once we had this thing built, anybody could have run it anywhere, and it is kind of that franchise mindset that you've kind of learned along the way. And then, talking about mindset, what role did mindset play in your journey? Like what do you feel like about your mindset and how you view things has made you successful?
It's a unique question, and I say that because it's somewhat of a unique answer. But what I've picked up is that essentially anybody can do anything they put their mind to, and that's so cliche. But the reason I say that is because if I could show the grit I had to go through in each of these situations, then anybody technically can, right? Like, so if one person can, then it can be done. And so, there was points in times in all these different places where I just wanted to give up. Like I was even interviewing at one point during the short sales. I had all those short sales and it was just so much work around the clock, paying all these employees and doing all that. You would think I had all the business in the world and I should be really, really happy, but it was hard. It was a stressful time, and I was applying at other jobs, and I was ready to quit. And then I landed into the Fannie Mae thing, right? Well, the Fannie Mae thing comes to an end once we're going through all this other stuff, and now I've got business decisions to make. And so once you stop and you start thinking through all of these things, new doors are opening every time another door is closing. But that's so hard to see when the door is closing. But here's the ticket. Once you get that rhythm a couple times, you're like, okay, that happened here. Okay, that happened. It was the same thing. I literally was almost out of money. In 2018, I had sold all my rentals, used all my money to build this franchise business that I did. And I mean, I remember telling my sister, I said, here, we're going to let this person go. I can't afford to pay him. I mean, we don't have any we're set up. We've spent all this time waiting, but it took 6 months to even get the company opening. We got a 12,000 square foot building. Like I put myself in the stupid position. I had a vision, but it just took longer and cost more, right? And so I was like, well, I can't pay the people. We're going to have to do something different and whatnot. And then coronavirus hits, right? Jeez. And so I'm like, we finally got a couple franchises. Everything's going okay. And then that's like, oh my, come on, man. I just like, forget it. But that not quitting and that looking back on each of these things was opening up something else. I said, that's what led to that virtual model, right? And so having the grit to go through over and over and over again of willing to lose everything. I was willing. I was okay, losing everything because I said, well, we'll get to something else. And so I got fortunate. So.
Yeah. And it's that self-esteem and confidence thing too, right? Is you knew that you were going to figure it out. Here's what I love about this. Even with a strong self-esteem, we feel doubt. I mean, even the strongest feel doubt and fear, and it's how they react to the doubt and fear that is the big difference. Is they keep going. They don't quit, don't stop, don't. I think the big thing is you just know if you keep taking action on a daily basis, the light is going to come out, right? It is going to get brighter. It is going to let up. And I love that you were all in. Right. And I think that's a big thing with the mindset that maybe you didn't even realize is that, when you do things, you do it all in. And that's kind of that whole burn the boats mentality. I'm not sure if the whole burn the boats is actually something that happened or not, but it makes for a great story is that, the military pulls up to the shore and, the general says, burn the boats. And it's like, they've got to beat the people who they're about to go, pillage, if you will. Or, they're either going to die there or they're going to live there. And it's a burn the boat mentality. And it's like, go 110%. I think that's a big part of this is something that I've seen with successful people like yourself is they're sometimes slow to commit, but once they commit, they own the commitment and they're 110% in. Some people get frustrated with sometimes slow decision making based on the person that's in charge, but the person in charge is slow to make a decision, and then because they understand the impact of commitment. We can't make too many commitments because we know the energy it takes to to go down that path. So I love that. Let's talk about advice, right? I mean, you've been through a lot. Your journey is really special. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are maybe out there contemplating a move from one profession to another? Let's talk about that group first and foremost, and then I want you to give some general advice for the listeners of the Referrals podcast, right? So the first one is, maybe there's a plumber listening to this today. Maybe the people that are listening know a plumber or know a landscaper or know someone who, they might make a great realtor or they might make a great lender. So, they're hesitant. They're fearful about changing from one profession to another. What advice do you have?
Yeah, I mean, fear is healthy. I mean, in almost any of those things that you're gonna feel that, because you've got to count the cost of all the things that are gonna go on. But if there's anything that comes away from the story of what I've gone through and what I'm saying in this is, it's changed my perspective that you don't have to have those limiting beliefs. You are capable of way more than you think you are, and you're only holding yourself back. Now, it doesn't mean there won't be challenges and things you got to overcome, and that's the part that you really got to count and figure out what's that going to take and how can you prepare. But it'll never be the perfect time. It'll never be the perfect situation. You've got to burn the boats, and that burn the boats that you're saying is really a mindset of you can't be double-minded. You can't go in and out, in and out, in and out. We're going to go to war. Okay, I'm getting back on the boat. I'm out of here. I'm going back to war. If you do, you will drown. I mean, that is essentially something that will put you down, is that double-mindedness. And what you're talking about with the making your decision, Michael Jordan, I think it was his quote. He said, once I make a decision, I don't change my mind. I mean, like once I've said it, I've decided. I've already thought through all the pieces and I'm going to do it. You're not going to come back and change my mind. And that commitment to doing something once you've made it. And, for me, it was funny. I kept double-minding and going out of the plumbing and the safety of, I've got a child. I mean, I've got to make sure I can take care of her. I've got a check coming in. All of this is at risk. And I said, but there's just something inside that says, I've got way more I have to do. And so when you say that all in, I didn't have a choice. I never had a choice. This is like almost predestined. I had to do this so I could go through this, so I could find the next guy and the next girl and say, hey, you're going to be capable of more than this. Show up, do it, plan, do more, go after it. You can do this. You only will lose if you give up. If you don't give up, you will figure it out. You're smarter than you think you are. You're more capable than you think you are. And all of those things are inside of everyone. And I want to set that example for that if I can. But there's a million examples like that, right? But for me, as my personal relationships, that's the one I would utilize.
I love it. And you actually added in a thing that I had not maybe talked about as much is that you had a daughter at the time. How hard it is to give up the sure for the unsure, and it's kind of that, you got to choose regret or debt. Yeah. Right. Which are you going to do? You're going to have regret or debt. And it's like, all right, we're going to go debt and we're going to pay off that debt. Right. It's hard to pay off regret. You can't do it. Right. But you can pay off debt. All right. So advice to entrepreneurs, right? I mean, I have so many lessons learned just from this conversation, but like what one piece of advice or final words of wisdom would you give to an entrepreneur?
Give it to an entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, I know I summed up a lot of that with that last, with the last statement of this other thing. But if there's that thing inside of you that's pushing you forward, you've got to do it. And the storyline I think of is like I was talking about, that even all of this success, that you find all this success, and I kept doubling down over and over and betting on myself, betting on that I thought I was blessed. I thought that I had a trajectory I had to go on. And I remember sitting down at the dinner table with my kids, and I had a decent, at 2017, everything was great. I mean, like you said, I came through a couple of years of really doing well and everything was great. I could have stayed exactly where we were. And I sat down with them and I said, look, I'm going to gamble it all. Everything that would be passed down to you guys, I said, I don't want to do that. It'll ruin your life. I would rather just double down and go do it, because I think we got something more we can do. And I don't want the regret of dying one day saying I left something on the table. And I can't live with that. I can't live with it. I can live with losing everything. I can't live with not trying, giving up. And And that pain inside of any entrepreneur that was capable of more and didn't try and didn't go after it, I promise you, you will kick yourself over and over and over again until it pushes you essentially to do it. And that's really the key, is to listen to that voice, navigate through it, think through it, plan through it. You don't need to just go jump off the bridge. You can really plan through it. But if that thing is stirring inside of you and there's more, there's a reason. God has put that inside of you for a reason and a purpose, and you've got to go after it.
Yeah, I love it. That is so well said and so true. And I'm telling you, that's I think overarching is bet on yourself. And then once you bet on yourself, double down on yourself. And the root word of entrepreneur means risk taker. Mm-hmm. It's not sure thing, but take the risk and bet on yourself. And then once you've bet on yourself, be prepared to double down at a moment's notice. You had the scenario where you got into real estate, and when you had the 100 short sales, you could have just said, forget the short sales. You know what I mean? And never learned that whole thought of leverage and systems and organization that you had to come, and people will come to you. And then the next thing was the REOs, and having 150 REOs dropped in your lap. You could have just said, forget that. I don't have the capacity for that. And no, instead what you did is solve the problem. Right? Systems, technology, and this whole thought of leverage and scale again. And then from there, you've taken that into what makes a lot of sense, is the franchise model. What works for me can work for many, as long as I have a system and a technology and a process for what we're doing. And I love that. I'll tell you, there are so many great pearls put out there today. And I hope people listen to this over and over again and get inspired to do it, because, now is the time. If you're listening to this right now, maybe this is a sign for you to burn your boats and to put it behind you and just like go 100% all in, commit. And, you're going to give it everything you have. And for some of you, maybe it's real estate. Maybe you're in real estate and you've written a bunch of multiple offers and you haven't won anything for your buyers, and your buyers are mad and you don't have any listings. But, maybe now's the time is you're going to do whatever it takes from 9 to 5, 9 to 6 to be successful, and give it a month, give it a couple of months and see what happens. But go 100% all in, burn the boats, and make it happen. So I love it. Ryan, this was so good, man. I really, really appreciate you being on today. And thank you so much for being a guest of Referrals Podcast.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on and let me tell the story.
I'll tell you, this is a story that you're going to want to share with your friends, your colleagues, the people that you know. We talk about Referrals Podcast being real people, real stories, real referrals. His real estate career literally got kickstarted through a referral relationship. And then he just took it to the next level with this thought of just betting on himself, and he's going to be a success no matter what, and then doubling down on that bet to make it happen. And he has gone from wrenches to riches. You too can go from rags to riches, or you can go from riches to even more riches through the lessons that we have today. The other thing is, I want to invite all of you to join GenGen to get more connections with real people and hear more real stories, and to get more real referrals. That's joingengen.com, joingengen.com. Last but not least, you are invited. You're cordially invited to the 7L Book Club, 7lbookclub.com. That's 7, the number L, bookclub.com. And I'm going to lead you through 4 weeks of reading and learning the 7L system as we go through the 7L book. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today on this episode of Referrals Podcast. Please be sure to rate it, review it, subscribe it, share it. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode of Referrals Podcast. Thank you, everyone.